The bonding, the enemy, the price, the vengeance factor, the defector, the hunted, the high ground. Is that a bunch of titles that start with the? Hello, everybody, and welcome to the seventh rule with Sirach Lofton.
The seventh rule. Hello, hello.
Everybody listening in, if you said those are all season 3 episodes, you are correct. My name is Ryan T. Husk, by the way. This is our season 3 review special. It's a lot of fun. I'm sitting here in a stuffy office with the cast behind me. Sirach is enjoying beautiful Los Angeles, California. Let's get into it. This is going to be a lot of fun. Sirach, first things first. Overall thoughts on season 3. Better than first 2 seasons? What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, right away. That's the first thing that jumps out. Much better than the first 2 seasons. There's some good episodes this season. And you know what? I'm glad that we were able to watch that documentary that kind of put us.
Yeah.
What was the name of that documentary?
Chaos on the Bridge by 455 Films.
That also helped really set the kind of mood and the tone for me going into this season, like what to expect behind the scenes. Because you see the ship has kind of been stable and all the kind of rocky, real wild swings have kind of steadied out in this season.
Yes. It definitely shows. And that really gave us the right perspective. That's why seasons 1 and 2 kind of bundle in together. And now season 3 is where it really takes off. Now, I feel like at the beginning of season 3, there were still a little bit of remnants and leftovers of the first 2 seasons. Like in this first episode, evolution, because it starts with the word Wesley. It says, Wesley's latest science project escapes the lab, threatening the Enterprise and an eminent scientist's lifelong project. That felt like first 2 seasons to me, yeah?
I agree. Didn't really, not really like the kind of bang of an episode when you start the season off with. Sometimes, they either end on a really good note or they begin on a really good note. This one was kind of okay.
Yeah, and then the second episode.
We did see a little bit older of Wesley, so I guess you could see because of the time difference that he's in, the age, you'll see a lot of growth within 6 months' time or within
That's
even
right.
3 months' time.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so then check this out. Our next one was the Ensigns of Command. And we had special guest Melinda M. Snodgrass joining us, who is freaking amazing. She's one of the best guests ever. What do you think?
Yeah. One of the best guests and one of the best writers. She's given us some really great episodes so far. Probably the best, I would say, almost for the first 2 seasons. She would be the standout writer for me. And what stands out for me, obviously, was Measure of a Man. I think that was her episode, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that episode still stands out as one of the great episodes of Next Generation that I've seen so far.
For sure. And then the third episode, everybody at home, we're going to fly through every episode. It's true. You're like, wait a minute, are they just flying through every episode? Yes. So hang on to your hats. The third one was The Survivors. The Enterprise responds to a distress call from Rana 4, Federation colony that is under attack from an unknown alien ship. That was those 2 old people that wanted to stay, and it's kind of like whatever. But then it was a better episode than I remember it being. I actually really liked the end and where the story took us. It was a good surprise.
Yeah, it doesn't really jump out as the big episode to me. Yeah, I'm looking at a few things here in this. Not much really jumps out. I think it was a 7.6 episode. Not too bad though.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, again, now it's a 7.7. I wonder if it was our viewers that bumped it up to a 7.7 because a couple months ago it was a 7.6. And what do you know?
Yeah.
It's the seventh
What
rule
do you know?
effect, double sevens. Going to Vegas with the seventh rule. Yeah, but what really jumped out at me with that one was what I said, initially, which was it was better than I remember it. And a few of these are better than I remember them. A few of these,
Yeah,
a few
yeah.
of these, I'm
This
like,
one,
I'm not too excited about this one. And then I watch it, I'm like, actually, that was really good. It's really good.
yeah. What I have as my takeaway from this episode was Picard being kind of a exemplary leader in this episode. He was kind of encouraging Worf, in a really good way. No one could have predicted it. He was kind of being in words of encouragement. I thought that was what stood out for me about how the episode was written. Michael Wagner episode.
Now, speaking of Worf and Wagner, that's a lot of W's, kind of like episode 4. Who watches the Watchers? This one was directed by Robert Weimer, written by, actually, let's check and make sure.
Hans Bleimler, yeah, it's Hans
Yeah,
Bleimler,
and Richard Manning.
episode.
Very nice. So this one was cool. This is the one with the proto-Vulcan culture that worships Captain Picard. This is a theme that we've seen a bunch of times in Star Trek over and over again. This might have been the first one that did that, though.
Yeah. They took some of the biblical themes in this and made it kind of, extrapolated from it. A lot of good stuff in this episode.
Yeah, it was a fun one.
And this was probably, I want to say this is the first Hans Beimler, but I'm not too sure about that.
Well, there's only one way to find out. I mean, there are a lot of ways to find out, but here's a quick one. Let me see. Well, oh no, he started being a co-producer early on, but I think you're right. Just give me one second here because I do think you're right.
Yeah.
Let's see here. His first written by Who Watches the Watchers. I mean, he had story by, teleplay by. He had a whole lot, story editor, teleplay by. But this is the first one that he is the sole writer or co-writer with his partner.
Okay.
And then after that, he moved over to Deep Space Nine after season 3. So he's got a couple more here in season 3, and then he moves over to Deep Space Nine. So the next one here is. Let's move that over. The Bonding. The James Bonding.
I knew you wouldn't be able to resist.
I can't resist anything, to be honest. A startling surprise awaits the crew of the Enterprise when a mission cost the life of a crew member who left her son behind. Now, this was the one, my biggest takeaway was this kid lost his father. Then he loses his mother. And then Worf goes, you know what you need? You need a brother. I'll be your brother. Like, what? He needs a parent. He needs a guardian. He needs love and guidance, not somebody that's going to give him an issue of Sports Illustrated and give him a noogie.
Noogies.
Yeah, noogies. I don't know. Yeah. That was a little weird.
It's weird to me especially because knowing that Worf has a backstory with his own kid or something, right? It's weird that they would write him as having a deficiency as a parent in one aspect of his own parenting, but then yet volunteer as if he's got these great parenting skills. On the other hand, so it is a contrast to what they've already kind of set as precedents for Worf's character.
So I just want to hurry up and get to Booby Trap. Booby Trap is the one of the many episodes in which poor Geordi just can't, like he's on the date with this girl at the holodeck, and she's kind of more
Yeah.
interested in the violinist than him. And she ends up coming back later on in the season. What's her name? Leah, no, not Leah Brahms. That's the main person in that episode.
Christy.
Christy Henshaw, yes. But Leah Brahms also. So he basically is a mess with two women in one episode.
Yeah. And this was also an episode that featured Gabrielle Beaumont, which I believe is our first female director of this series. So shout out to Gabrielle. Yeah, this particular storyline ends up what I like about so far this season too, as well as they're going to pick back up on that Christie storyline again, and it'll become kind of a reoccurring theme for this season when you think about Wesley clowning Geordi.
Oh, that's so ruthless, man. I can't believe that they're like, there's a point where you're like, all right,
That's
even
too low.
even the kids
Yeah.
dogging them. Come on, like
That's too low.
come on. Anyway, so
Yeah.
up next is The Enemy. LaForge gets left behind on a storm-plagued planet when the rest of his team encounters a Romulan warrior. This was a great one for us. We had a very special guest, Steve Rankin, who plays one of the Romulans, the one that was dying up on the ship. And it was really that dichotomy of two different Romulans and two different outcomes, and how they reacted differently to a very similar kind of situation of being injured, kind of at the mercy of their enemy. It's a really good episode, actually.
Was that the episode where the Romulan refuses to take any help or something?
Yeah, from Worf. He said, I would rather die than take Klingon blood, And that was Steve Rankin that played that guy.
Yeah, that was memorable because that scene was kind of impactful when you think about people who have a high level of bigotry or prejudice. They have that belief system, they would rather die.
Yeah, no, it's very powerful writing, very powerful scenes. Good episode. Very good episode. And I was very happy to get Steve Rankin in that because he was a great guest. So all around, very happy with that one. The next one is The Price. This was with the infamous Deanna Troi and Beverly Crusher stretching scene.
Oh, God.
Where they're stretched.
One of your favorite Trek scenes of all time.
So while the
was there actually a story in that episode?
I don't even remember it. The story. Oh, that's a stretch. While the Enterprise hosts negotiations for control of a stable wormhole, Troi forms a personal relationship with an opposing negotiator, unaware of his true right. So he was a Betazoid as well. And then they suddenly fell in love so quickly, and he was like it was kind of creepy and weird, but whatever, you do you, Troi.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird episode, I would say. Yeah, a little bit.
The stretching episode.
Basically the stretching episode.
We did have a very special guest, Hannah Louise Shear, who wrote that episode. She was a great guest, great energy, loved having her. So huge shout out to her and huge thank you to her for joining us. Lots of fun.
Also had some great moments in Star Trek writing credits wise. So and very great guest too. So generous with her time. So thank you to Miss Louise Shear.
Yep. Okay. Then up next we have this one. The Vengeance Factor. Remember, the Enterprise pursues a race of gatherers who continue to raid Federation outposts, unaware of the dangers lurking among them. This was the one where they basically introduced Kai Wynn And we're like, oh boy, here comes another Kai Wynn. But then she wasn't really like that bad at all. And so we really focused thinking that she was going to be like Kai Wynn, but she wasn't really like that bad. It was like her assistant that was the problem, the real problem. Her assistant called Utah, Chicken a la Utah, or whatever it was with Riker.
Yeah, doesn't really jump out to me in this episode. I don't really feel anything that jumps out to me.
Well, maybe
I
this
remember it a little
will.
bit.
Maybe this will. Utah herself joined us for the review. That was Lisa Wilcox. And she said that every
Yeah.
time when she would go to a Star Trek convention, Jonathan Frakes sees her walking by and he yells out the line about the Utah, Chicken a la Utah, or whatever it was to her, because they had a good time together and he remembers that line. She was a great guest too. Great energy. We're very
Yeah.
fortunate
So
to
she's
get
the
her.
one that killed somebody, right? Didn't she do something to
Yep.
kill somebody? Or
Mhm.
yeah, that was a good moment there.
So that was a fun one. Definitely a twist. That was one of those mystery episodes that kind of gives you a twist, and she was the evil doer all along.
Yeah.
Next, we had episode 10, The Defector, which I always mispronounced, but this time I said it correctly. I would add an extra syllable that doesn't belong in there.
Like an A.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. So the Defector, this is another Romulan episode, okay? This is when a Romulan officer defects to the Federation with a warning of impending invasion. Captain Picard struggles to decide if he is to be believed. Basically, do you believe that this guy is who he says he is? He was like a big admiral, and he said, no, I'm defecting from the Romulan Empire. Here's all the secrets. And we're supposed to think like, is he telling the truth? And at the end, there's the twist of he was telling the truth, but the Romulan Empire knew he was defecting, so they gave him false information. And it's this really powerful twist. Beautiful, beautiful episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that episode. He got played, Commander Tomalak. Yeah, that was a good episode. A Ronald D. Moore episode.
Big surprise. Ronald D. writes a good episode. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Superstar. All right. So now up next, episode 11, The Hunted. Oh boy. This was the Roga Danar episode. You know, this is another common theme in Star Trek. The roguish bad guy that gets kind of rescued, but he's tough. And then a member of the crew falls in love with him, but he's so misunderstood and rugged. Luckily, we had very special guest, Roga Danar himself, Jeff McCarthy, joining us. That was a good time. He was a lot of fun. He was still roguish.
He was. Very good. Music was good in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good episode. Who was the one that fell in love? Was it Dr. Crusher? I think it was.
I think so, but I get so confused because there's so many of those episodes. I thought it was Dr. Crusher. Let me make sure. And this is when he was wrestling with like O'Brien and all these other extras, and he's like wrestling out in the hallway and all that. That was a lot of fun. That was the craziest wrestling battle of all time.
It was a nice little wrestle scene. It was hard to get him down.
So everybody watching this, in the comments below, please remind us, was it Crusher that had a soft spot for him, or was it Troy? Because I can't keep up with all these roguish characters. And part of the reason I think it was Troy. Because
he says a girl with long dark hair broke my heart several years ago or something like that.
Yeah, and also the reason I think that is because the very next episode, The High Ground, it was Crusher falling for a terrorist guy. Now it's a little bit different, certainly a lot more nuanced, but
Yeah.
she was one. So she couldn't have had, 2 episodes in a row where she falls on. She needs at least a week to recover. And we had very special guests because I had a ton of fight scenes, ton of lasers, a ton of explosions. So of course we had to have stunt coordinator Dennis Matalone join us. Love that dude. Sirach, he loves you to pieces.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. That was a very good episode there. That was another Melinda Snodgrass special. Yep. And also a second Gabrielle Beaumont episode of this season. So right on target. So we had a woman writing it and a woman directing this episode.
Right. And I think that was the first time that had ever happened in Star Trek history where only a female director and only a female writer. No other men looming or co-writing or being like, maybe you should, actually, or whatever. Or maybe they were. I don't know. Yeah. But we're going by credits.
Yeah.
So that was The High Ground and Dennis Matalone joining us for that one. Let's see. Do we have okay, so episode 13 was the Q episode of the season, Deja Q. Much to Picard's displeasure, Q reappears on the Enterprise claiming to have been ejected from the Q continuum and therefore lost his powers. He starts off like floating naked on the Enterprise bridge, and then later on he's doing the mariachi band and he brings girls with him and all that. Yeah. Q shenanigans, that one.
Q shenanigans. Yeah, we get a lot of that. If I'm not mistaken, it was an 8.5. So it's a big fan favorite.
Yep. A lot of memes came from that one.
Yeah. I'm not the biggest on Q episodes because I don't feel a level of danger there. I don't really feel like their life is in jeopardy. I always feel like it can always get snapped back to reality or whatever instantly. So
tell that to Tasha.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he didn't kill her, but maybe he could bring her back. I don't know.
Yeah, could have probably, but I don't know. Just there's a level of playfulness and jokiness about him that, I automatically assume, oh, this is going to be a playful episode. This is Q going to be doing Shakespeare / variety show of characters. His Carol Burnett. I used to watch the Carol Burnett show, and there would be a bunch of variety shows. It's like a variety show, so little skits here and there.
Yeah.
And part of me feels like when Q comes on, we're going to get a Robin Hood thing. We're going to get King Arthur. We're going to get a little of this. Almost like a variety show.
Well, have I got a Carol Burnett story for you? Everybody at home, Carol Burnett used to be my regular when I used to work in a high-end restaurant in Westwood, California. I bet Sirach knows that area well. And she would always order the same drink. She'd be like, hey, Ryan, you know what I want. You know what I like. And I'd be like, oh, I know what you like. And I would get it for her. We will tell you what that drink is on the other side because we are halfway through.
The suspense.
We're halfway through the season. Everybody make your guesses now. What was Carol Burnett's drink of choice every time? We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule. And am I lying? Find out. No trivioids this week, everybody. Can you believe it? Welcome back to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
It's all business all the time. Carol Burnett, her drink of choice is, everybody take your time, finish typing away. She would always get a Cosmo, very pink, she would say. In other words, like very light on the cranberry and stuff, like hit that vodka hard, give me a splash. Just basically put the grenadine in the mixer or the cranberry next to it and let it waft on there. But she was wonderful. Loved always having her. That was her drink of choice. All right.
All right.
And no, I was not lying, but sometimes I do. Just not this time. I think.
So that's you said a pink martini?
Yeah, I think the way she would say it is a martini. No, a Cosmo, very pink.
Cosmo.
Yeah,
Cosmo
instead of like
Okay.
red. So
Nice.
up next is A Matter of Perspective, episode 14. That was a weird one where the husband of that alien, he gets killed and they're trying to say like, was it Riker that killed him? Was it the friend? And everybody has like a different perspective on it, and then they create a holodeck program. I got a little I
Yeah.
love the concept, but I got a little lost, a little bogged down in the details, me personally.
Yeah, there was like it was at the same time that he was transporting, the guy died, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that. They were trying to blame it on Riker, but it's because Riker supposedly had a crush on his wife, and so the wife would tell the story like he was all over me, and then Riker
Yeah.
would tell it. Yeah,
So
it was one of
aggressive.
those. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was memorable, but not for the reasons that I think they wanted to be memorable for.
It was a great concept. I just feel like it needed to be a tiny bit more realistic, maybe a little bit more nuanced for me to have enjoyed it more. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you got to really
Uh,
hammer it home since it is a matter of perspective.
it should have been based off of something where I might have believed. I don't believe that Riker is going to jeopardize everything to throw it all away for revenge on some dude. He's
Right.
getting laid way too much for that to happen. Now,
Yeah.
Jordy.
Poor Jordy. He'll kill everybody on the bridge for a chance at Leah Brahms. He's like, I don't care, guys.
I don't care.
Have you
I
ever
might
been
have done
walking
it.
in
I
the
don't even
desert
remember.
before? All right.
Uh,
He's thirsty. So, episode 15 was yesterday's Enterprise. Some people say
oh
it's the
yeah.
best episode in the history of Star Trek. Others say it's at least a top five Next Generation episode. But everybody agrees it's a great, great episode.
Can't even say anything bad about this episode. It was unbelievable. Directed by David Carson, one of the great Star Trek
Yep.
directors who did the pilot for Deep Space Nine. Written by Ira Behr, Hans Bleimler, Ronald Moore, Richard Manning. That's a heavy hitter lineup of writers right there.
Yeah, it really is.
Um, Story by Eric Stillwell and Trent Christopher Canino. Um, just a really great episode. This is where we get the prune juice, right?
Yeah. And we had our very special guest, Denise Crosby, joining us because she returned as Tasha Yar. Ever
Yeah.
since she left at the end of the first season, I had and yesterday's Enterprise circled as like an exciting day in my life. I'm like, I'm going to watch a great episode. Denise is going to return. Sirach's going to talk about how great it is. I was just excited, and it did not disappoint. It gets better with every watch, and it was a
It
great
gets better,
review.
yeah.
Great stuff.
Absolutely great episode, and gave us also a little vision of flash or sight into the movie Ghost, because Whoopi Goldberg is featured in that movie, and in this movie she's kind of seeing a ghost. It just beautiful, beautifully written, wonderfully executed.
Perfect. Next
Perfect.
was episode 16, The Offspring. And we had our very special guest, Renee Echevarria, joining us. That's a fun one because I'll tell you what it's about. After returning from a cybernetics conference to the Enterprise, Data creates his own child, much to the chagrin of the captain and without regards to the ramifications with Starfleet. This was the Lal episode where she says, "Thank you for my life." What a great episode.
Yeah, this was a high episode. This is where Next Generation has started to really peak for me in this season, because they back to back like really good episodes. Yesterday's Enterprise is a classic, and then this one is also above a 9.1 up there. It's just so good. Also directed by Jonathan Frakes. So we got
Yeah.
another legendary director on the lineup. So this is when they start to, when you bring up the cleanup hitters, this point in the season where the cleanup hitters just knocking them out the park. So very good episode as well. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a standout episode, and his first directing episode, his directorial debut for Jonathan Frakes. Really loved the episode. Also, our good buddy Leonard Crowfoot plays Lal as well as Hallie Todd. Just very, very happy with that one. The next one, Sins of the Father. We meet Worf's other brother. Not that little kid that he kind of said, I'll be your brother, but then never spoke to ever again. Deadbeat brother, I say. His other brother, played by Tony Todd. Boy, that was a fun one, huh?
Yeah, Tony Todd, legend. So, like again, once I said this is the part of the lineup where Next Generation's hitting it out the park.
Yep.
These are just heavy hitting episodes. I loved, this episode. I love the way Tony Todd plays a Klingon. I think he was just natural. He was a good brother for Worf as far as chemistry wise on screen and challenging him and bringing out that kind of Klingon, personality out. So yeah, I love this. I think it was Kern who played the Worf's brother Kern, if I'm not mistaken.
It is Kern, famous for his nectar that everybody loves so much. He once tried to kill me for that joke. The next episode we have is Allegiance. Allegiance was a very interesting episode because this is the one where Picard is captured. He's surrounded by different aliens. There's an imposter Picard on the ship, and it tests their allegiance. Like, do they just follow him in whatever he says, in whatever he does, and whatever he tells them to do? Or do they eventually pull away and say, you're relieved of duty, you're not acting like yourself, we got to go with our gut? We had a very special guest, of course, the legendary Michael Westmore, very highly regarded and celebrated for his makeup, especially in an episode like this where we have all these different aliens. Really impressive stuff on this one.
Yeah, makeup stands out. I remember those like hog-like teeth that were coming out of one alien right there. Yeah. But I'll say that the thing that wasn't believable that much to me was this alien having the technology to make a artificial Picard, that had all his memories and all of the, it just didn't sit well with me. Now, if they had a possessed Picard, I would have bought that. Like, he's been possessed by this alien and they're using his body, like a parasite would, and making all of these demands of the crew. But the fact that they abducted him and replaced him with another Picard, that's the part that it's hard for me to buy.
I can understand that. And speaking of the part that's hard for me is the next episode, Srock's favorite, Captain's Holiday, everybody. Captain's Holiday. Really a fun episode. We meet Vash. He calls her Vosh. We had Max Grodenchik playing another different Ferengi, so that was fun. Really just a great episode all around. He goes to Rise. Oh, there's Max. Just a great one. We get to see Ryza for the first time. We learn about Jamaharan and the Horgon statue. It's just a good time.
It was a good time. Very good time. And great transition too, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Up next was Tin Man. How about this for a transition? Tin Man. Oh, by the way, for Captain's Holiday, we did have Chip Chalmers joining us. That was so much fun to have the legendary Chip Chalmers finally joining us. Really cool. But Tin Man kind of didn't do it for me. it was okay. It was fine. It was fun, but what do you think?
I what first of all, Tin Man, that was episode 20.
20, yeah.
And what's the synopsis on that? I can't remember Tin Man.
It
Doesn't
was
jump
the
out at me.
guy that could sense everybody's like feelings and emotions and all that. He was also like Betazoid or something. And then
Oh yeah,
there was
no.
that alien ship, and he was sensing the alien ship's powers, and then he
Yeah,
ends up going up inside the alien ship, and then they go off together or explode. We don't know, but that was okay. That was fine. You
yeah.
know.
No, wasn't a big fan of it. It was probably trying to play on the movie that called Starman that came out back in the day in the same period of time.
Hmm.
There's a great movie called Starman. If I'm not mistaken, it was Jeff Bridges, but I could be
Sounds right.
mistaken. But
I remember the picture
yeah,
of it. It's like a guy like this.
yeah,
Okay.
that's probably a similar theme that they probably were borrowing from.
Tin Man, Starman. It's a Starman. Who is that? Isn't that David Bowie or something? Great song, whoever it is. Yeah. Anyway, up next is a favorite of mine, Hollow Pursuits. We meet Lieutenant Reginald Barkley. Episode was even better than I remember. I loved it.
Yeah, yeah, me too. That's the Mr. 18, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Murdoch.
that's Murdoch from the 18. Love that episode. He played the eccentric kind of non-confident guy really well. Would have kind of liked to see him come back for a follow-up story on his trajectory.
Yeah, it's a bummer we never see his character ever again in Next Generation.
Okay, okay, do tell.
Yeah, it's funny because Next Generation has a lot of characters they introduce, and you really want them to come back, or they get one episode, or they get two episodes, and they never come back.
Yeah,
Let's just say Reginald Barkley may not be one of those people that we never see again. Double negative,
thank God.
unnecessary, but whatever. Next is episode 22, The Most Toys. This was a better episode than I remember. And man, the acting of what's his name, Saul Rubinek was
Yeah,
outstanding. That was the standout thing for me, was just how great his acting was.
very good acting. It touches on a little bit like A Measure of a Man as far as what Data's rights are, you know, which is great because I think Data's storyline is one of the main things that keeps me interested in the show. I like
Yeah.
to see, you know, it's the Pinocchio story of
Hmm.
the object that wants to become a person. So I think Data is like somebody that I follow closely. This episode kind of showed how he, doesn't want to be treated like a possession. Nobody does. But the actor Sal was amazing in that episode. That
Yep.
guest actor was top notch.
Yep. Speaking of which, acting being top notch, Sarek is the next episode. Wow, that one was powerful. We've got a Vulcan who's losing his mind, losing control of his emotions, but he's still trying to hang on to that dignity. Really sad, really powerful. Played incredibly by Mr. Mark Leonard, who has played Sarek in the past in the original series. He's also played a Romulan commander, if I remember correctly. And great acting by Picard. Both of them were amazing. Sorry, Patrick Stewart, I should say.
Yeah, Sarek was great. I mean, this was one of the great episodes. I love the costume jewelry that they had him dressed with. He was playing this diplomat, but he had him with a very nice kind of robed layer look. A lot of jewelry in there with Sarek and his wife Perrin, I think her name
Hmm.
was. Just a great episode.
Yes. Very, that's another one that was even better than I remember it. Like they knocked it out of the park. No doubt about it for me.
Yeah.
Next, the penultimate episode, really ending on a high note with, oh, sorry, no. One more before that, 24, Menage a Troy. Um,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, he can't be
hey,
perfect all the time.
hey, nah, man. Hey, sometimes your pitcher goes to bat, whatever.
Yeah, this was not my favorite episode. Susan Sackett, Fred Brunson writing it. Uh, Director Robert Legato. Um,
It's a good crew, though.
yeah, yeah. You know what? We did have Ethan Phillips in this episode, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes. And a lot
playing
of very
Ferengi.
funny moments. I mean, what this one
Yeah,
got was a lot of funny moments. So I'll take it. I'll enjoy those funny moments. And those were the
yeah,
most memorable, where Picard is being like, "'Tis nobler to my love thee thine," or whatever he said.
yeah,
Funny, cool.
yeah,
Not usually what I go for, but we'll take it, I guess.
yeah. Shout out to the Waxana Troy and
Yes.
Major Roddenberry who plays her.
So now the penultimate one is Transfigurations. The Enterprise finds a deserted planet where a ship has crashed, and with it, the lone survivor with no memory but extraordinary healing powers. Okay, this is a Ronald D. Moore episode. Oh, sorry. No, he's a story editor here,
Renee.
but Renee Echevarria wrote this episode. Right. So
Yeah.
we remember this one. It was just a couple episodes ago. Pretty good. I hadn't remembered it before our current reviews.
Yeah. Let's see. What did we get? We got the strange capsule in this episode that was being looked at. O'Brien kayaking on the holodeck. That was one of the
Yes.
little. Um, yeah. Less talk, more synthahol.
Yep. Now, the final episode of season 3, the cleanup hitter, best of both worlds, part 1. We had Elizabeth Dennehy joining us, who plays, everybody knows, Lieutenant Commander Shelby. And man, what an episode.
Yeah, great episode. I mean, another episode that rates over a 9 for this
Yeah.
episode. I think this season has at least 3, maybe 4 episodes that rank a rate over a 9 on IMDb. So that's a pretty good 4 out of 26 episodes. Ranking that high is pretty good to me, as far as averages are concerned.
You know,
Uh,
Interestingly, a
what?
lot of people think that season 3 of Next Generation is the best season. I don't agree with that, but a lot of people will tell you season 3 is the best. Some say 4. A lot of people say 4. It kind of depends. Are you looking for great episodes, or are you looking for consistently very good episodes? It kind of varies there. But yeah, what were you saying?
No, I mean, I was just saying how many high scoring episodes
Yeah.
this season had. This last episode, Best of Both Worlds, the Michael Piller special. One of, I think, the first one that is he wrote outright. He's giving us the Borg in this episode. Also, like the actor who plays Admiral Hansen. We didn't talk about him in the review that much, but
Mm-hmm.
I remember his face popping up a lot, and he's always kind of an actor who I remember seeing, but I never really get to give him his props.
He
So I
works.
want to make sure. Yeah, he works a lot. Um, but yeah, just a way to end the episode on a cliffhanger too. I don't know if that's the first time they're doing that, but they ended on a 2-parter.
I think so.
Um,
Actually, yeah, I'm sure it is.
so that's another kind of gift that we get out of this season. It's all around just one of the better seasons. Gave us some really classic episodes this
Yeah. I mean, Best of Both Worlds Part 1. What a crowning achievement. And yesterday's Enterprise. But a lot of good ones. So that's it for us, everybody. We're going to have the free for all and our buddies are going to jump in and talk about what their favorite episodes are. They're going to fight. It's going to be messy. But before we do that, we'd like to give a very special thanks to Homer Frizzell, Dr. Marie Segal, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackmon-Tom, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, who texted me beforehand saying, hey, where are you guys? And then he's like, oh, I'm super early. Never mind. And Titus Mohler, Dr. Mohamed Noor, Tierney C, Dieckmann, Anil O, Polat, Joe Balsarotti, Mike Goo, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, my live from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake, Barrett, Henry Unger, Allyson Leach-Heid, Julie Manasfi, Jed Thompson, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, very thoughtful lady, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Tim Baum, Chris Sternett, Chuck A., Luther Haynes, and of course, Jason Okun and Greg K. Wickstrom out in Hawaii. All right, everybody, stick around. We're going to have some fun. We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton. Can you believe it?
Oh.
This is the free-for-all with Melissa Longo.
Hello.
She's out in Cherrytown, USA. We've got Jason M. Okun, who actually doesn't like cherries, weirdly enough.
Not at all.
I can't tell if he's telling the truth. Probably not.
I know.
We've got Carrie Schwent with an awesome homemade background. Mai is live in Tokyo, although it looks like she's out in space. TJ Jackson-Bey is hiding under a bunch of umbrellas. It seems he likes shade. He's a shady character. And Chris McGee has an awesome ISO linear chip 7th rule shirt. Well, I guess there's no IMDb score to guess. However, let's ask this question here. We are 3 seasons in. Okay, so we're somewhere around 70 episodes, maybe 68, 67, something like that. Who is leading in the non-appearance mention battle royal right now? Everybody at home, a non-appearance mention is when somebody's mentioned, but they do not appear in the episode. And they have to have been a character that we actually see at some point. It can't just be Joe Schmo of the USS whatever is mentioned, but we never see the guy, so who knows? Has to be a real character. Who is leading? Who has had the most episodes where they are mentioned?
I'm gonna guess Luoxana.
Yeah, same.
Maybe either her or Jack Crusher, the senior.
Oh yeah, good call.
I'm going to say Tasha Yar.
Ooh.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. It's Deanna Troy's father, Ian Troy.
Oh. Wow. Wrong
at
parent.
second place.
Not a hint.
At second place. But first place was guessed correctly by somebody here.
Jack Crusher.
Yep, Jack Crusher.
Jack Crusher. Great.
Now, tied for third. Okay, Jack Crusher has 9 already. Ian Troy has 6. Tied for third with 5, Luoxana Troy. And who do you guys think is tied for third?
I'm going to go with Sirach's Tasha.
I'll go with Worf's adoptive father, Mr.
That's what I
Roshi.
was going to guess. There's
Ooh. Good guess, too. Or Leah Brahms.
Okay, Worf's father is right after them with 4. And tied with Luoxana Troy with 5 is Dr. Noonien Soong. Dr. Noonien Soong. All right. Boy, that was exciting, huh? Woo! So Melissa, can you just get us started off? What's your favorite episode of this season? Or give us a quick top 3 if you'd like, and maybe tell us why your favorite is your favorite.
Okay. Favorite top 3 and they're probably not surprises, but yesterday's Enterprise, The Offspring, and actually, I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to go Captain's Holiday.
That's Rock's favorite too.
No.
Just because it's fun. But yeah, best of both worlds. I mean, I like best of both worlds too, and that's what I was going to say. But then I went Captain's Holiday. Um, but definitely yesterday's Enterprise because it was so emotional, but so was The Offspring for different reasons. So those two are probably my top two favorite of the season.
Wow. No BYOB. Interesting. BOBW.
BW.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you, Melissa Longo. However, Jason M. Okun is going to tell us his three least favorite. No, let's just stick with most favorite. What do you think, Jason?
That's a bit of a tougher one because probably, I mean, I said this before, I think right at the beginning when we started season 3, it is probably one of the best seasons of Star Trek. If you look at sort of the consistency of good episodes versus, I guess, not so good episodes, I think the hit rate is pretty high, especially considering what came in the 2 seasons before that. It is almost a different show. I mean, not only do you get different uniforms that change a little bit, but obviously, cinematography changes quite a bit. With Michael Piller, the focus changes quite a bit. So it's like watching a different show. So it is a little tough to pick, the most 3 most favorite. And I can tell you over time, things have changed for me personally as you get older, as you sort of look at this differently, things do change. If I had to highlight the 3, I mean, Melissa, certainly mentioned, The Offspring and yesterday's Enterprise. I mean, these are sort of a kind of very sort of, these episodes come up a lot when people talk about favorites. I'll add Who Watches the Watchers to that.
Yeah.
It's always been something that was one of my favorites, and it still is. To me, it stands up, but it really sort of turns the, I guess, the superstition premise, not on its head, but it certainly brings it forward and shows how sometimes what we think of as something has been kind of ingrained into certain people, the way they're brought up, certain things that they hear all their lives, and they tend to believe in them, and it kind of shows you that sometimes maybe there's nothing behind that at all, that it's all frankly made up. So I think if I had to highlight anything, I mean, we can talk about the best of both worlds. Everybody likes that. There's so much in that episode, so much packed into it, and we talked about how tight the script is. There's no real fat in there. It's a wonderful episode. But if we had to talk about something else, I'd probably highlight Who Watches the Watchers. And there are a bunch of others. You can talk about The Enemy. If you like the topic of terrorism, you can talk about The High Ground. If you like, talk about the government, you can talk about The Hunted. If you like sort of a kind of a thriller, spy type things, you can talk about The Defector. There are a lot of things that are great here. It's sort of, at some level, it's the best of times and it's the worst of times. I mean, let's talk about Menage a Troi. I mean, there's that part of it. The price isn't exactly the highlight of Star Trek. The vengeance factor is not quite there. And again, there's good and there's bad. I mean, I also love Booby Trap. It has its warts, as we talked about when we reviewed the episode. But there's something sort of comforting and homey about it. Again, I can go on for a long time when it comes to season 3, so it's perhaps not. It's one of those seasons you can talk a lot about and find sort of virtues with a lot of different episodes.
What I heard, Jason, was that season 3 is your favorite season.
It's not. It's one of the best, I think, of Star Trek. Is it my favorite? It's among them. I'm not sure I would say it's my favorite. I mean, season 4 is pretty strong as well, and there's certainly there in 5 and even 6. So I think it's just kind of getting there to its sort of crescendo. I think 4 is, you can argue 4 is on par with 3 with a lot of good episodes. I mean, one of my real favorite episodes comes from season 4.
Ooh, yay.
Ooh, good tease.
Yeah.
We're going to get to that.
Spoiler alert.
Some people might think it's a little preachy. I think honestly,
Don't tell us what it is. Save that for
I'm
things
not.
left
I'm
unsaid
not.
because I want to find out. But I don't want to wait like 3 months to find out. So
Well, I'll tell you, it's a bottle show
Okay.
of all things.
okay.
I mean, so is The Offspring. But again, sometimes these bottle shows are the best ones.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of bottles, Carrie Schwent can build a ship in a bottle if she chooses to. She just hasn't chosen to yet. What did you think of this episode? I mean, season. I
So I have never attempted a ship in a bottle, and my hands are probably decently steady enough for it. But who knows? Maybe someday in the future I'll attempt it. But it is a very, very good season. I've got a couple like subcategories of things. We have 2 Deanna Must Suffer episodes, The Survivors, and I count the Price among them as the total. She's up to a total of 4 so far in the series. Of course, you've got the episodes you can never watch too many times, Yesterday's Enterprise and Best of Both Worlds, which I mentioned when we did Best of Both Worlds. I could watch that one every single day. But favorite eps, Offspring, got one of my favorite moments of the entire series. Law saying he's biting that female. One of those phrases that does not get old. It's funny every single time. I love Hollow Pursuits. I've got a soft spot for Barkley. I love how adorably awkward he is. So I love just about almost every episode he's in. There's one later on that we'll get to eventually, which I will highlight why I do not like part of that particular episode, but that's a couple seasons down the road. I love Sins of the Father because I love the whole brother thing. I love Kern. Tony Todd is awesome. If he ever records like audiobooks, I need to know which ones because I don't care what book it is. If Tony's reading it, sign me up. And because I love Q, Deja Q comes in at number 4, which has one of my other favorite moments of the entire series of Data laughing his ass off on the bridge. Always makes me laugh. I did one other thing which I thought you guys might get a kick out of. I had my husband Eric go through all of my limericks for the season, and I had him pick his favorite. And I'll read it for you guys, and you'll see if you'll be able to guess which episode it's from. In the blink of an eye, everything changed. It all seems correct, yet feels so strange. We should not have to fight. I must see things set right. The wrong history must be erased.
Oh, Yesterday's Enterprise.
Yesterday's Enterprise.
Whoa, Chris McGee actually had time to type it out. That guy's a quickie.
Right?
Wow.
It was because I read slow, but
Impressive.
yeah, good season.
Yeah, thanks very much, Carrie Schwent. Glad you told us what you thought of that episode. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Mai is live in Tokyo wearing a cool Star Trek shirt. Who knew? What'd you think of this
Got pride,
season?
baby. Got pride.
Aw, happy
Yes.
Pride to you.
Yay!
The season to me was good, but not great. I'm going to give it a C plus. There was more good than there was bad, but the bad just brought it right down. So I think that as they move into season 4, they take that good and they run with it, and it does get better. But season 3 was still suffering a little bit. They start out with this nanites episode, very weak start to the whole season, I thought. But then I love the whole Shellyak thing. I thought that was clever. As a negotiator, I think that was fun. I like that a lot. Watchers, definitely. That's one of my top 3, without a doubt. I think that going on beyond that, they a couple episodes later, they get into that pure ripoff of Enemy Mine, the movie, and I thought, no, that's not okay to do that kind of plagiarizing. But And then the Law episode for me, I've got a daughter. I can't watch that episode. It's impossible. But I liked the Shapeshifter episode because I liked the love story for Wesley. I thought it's one of everybody's most hated episodes. I I liked it. That was a good one for me. I thought that was a fun love story. And then our hero, you saw my when we reviewed that during Virtual Trek. The hero's background that I put up. I love that episode. Our Denise was a hero, and she got her due in that. I thought that was really good. I like that a lot. Um, what else? Great stuff in there. I like Saul Rubinek. I think he's funny. I like his delivery. He's hilarious. Give me more of that. And as I said, Transfigurations, who doesn't like a transition episode if you're trans, right? So that was kind of cool. Question though, on the last episode, the way the guy's name was Admiral Hansen, was that like a subtle plug or tie into Seven of Nine? I thought that was interesting because her last name is Hansen originally.
Annika.
Well, different spelling, O and E, but I thought it was interesting. So anyway, a good season. Great. I'm not going to go there, but I would say a good season.
We'll take it. We'll take it. Thank you very much, My Live in Tokyo. TJ Jackson-Bey is out in Missouri. He feels like the kind of guy that's going to name like 3 episodes that we haven't even mentioned. Maybe I'm wrong.
And you know me so well. Right? But first, I have to mention the one that everybody's going to mention, and it is called The Best Cliffhanger of All Time. Because just the build up and the way they ended that episode, I think it's just classic and unmatched in anything that I've ever watched. The music was epic, at the end, and the fire and the screen to black. It just doesn't get any better than that for cliffhangers on TV. And then having to wait the summer to watch the end was perfect if you lived in that time. And so my top 3 episodes that other people aren't going to say in this season are first, The Defector, because 1, Romulans, and 2, I really enjoyed, the story they told of, a man that thought, he was doing, what was right, that it just all fell apart for him, and he didn't see a way out. But I think, they told a beautiful story, of someone that, just really put his heart into what he was doing, even though, it felt wrong and it looked wrong, and he went with it anyway. The next episode is Tin Man.
Oh.
Because 1, Romulans. And 2, I really appreciate and identify a lot with Tam Elbrin. And one of my kind of disappointments is that no one in the crew, really kind of gave him a chance. And he never really got to express himself to anyone other than Data. But I appreciated the interactions that he had with Data. Was the first person that he ever had to actually get to know without being able to just read their mind, and that created a special relationship for him. So I appreciated that.
Mm-hmm.
The number 3
Hang
episode.
on, everybody. We can guess number 3, right? We sense the pattern. What's number 3?
You're gonna try to guess it, but you're gonna get it wrong. But go for it. I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, I was gonna say The Enemy because it has Romulans.
Wrong. The number 3 episode for me in this season, and I love them all, to be clear, even the ones that Jason tried to throw away, but the number 3 episode is Sarek, because 1, Romulans, cousins of Vulcans. And that was a really nice nod to the original series, which I was a big fan of course. And it also, it told a very interesting story, of Sarek really coming to accept, this condition that came up on him so gradually, and the people around him, are kind of like, manipulating him, that he doesn't believe he has it. And then when he realizes he does, he kind of, if you will, mans up and says, okay, you gotta get out of my head and let me realize, what's really going on. Like, I need to know. And then, he reaches out for help, which is probably difficult for, a man of over 200 years with all of the experience that he has. Picard is like a kid to him, but he reaches out to help and completes the mission. So I appreciate, that episode for that reason. I could talk about so many more, but that's my top 3 that other people would not name right off the top of their heads.
Nice category. Thank you very much, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, always keeping us guessing. The Dark Lord, Chris McGee, is here. What do you think, Chris? You have a top 3?
I do indeed, but before I get to that, I'll mention real quickly. I agree with what Jason said, and as we all pretty much collectively stated during the review of the first season 3 episode, this season's almost like a refresh of the show with new uniforms, new furniture and sets, new head writer, Michael Piller, memorable musical scores, and a much higher quality of episodes overall. And I like to think of it as, there were only a handful of good episodes among dozens of mediocre or even bad ones in the first 2 seasons, whereas it's almost the exact polar opposite here, with most episodes being good and only a handful of lackluster ones. So my top 3 episodes, you can probably already guess them, but I'll go ahead and list number 3, Who Watches the Watchers? An interesting study into what happens when the Prime Directive is broken accidentally, as well as it has been mentioned, questioning superstition and even religion. Number 2, Yesterday's Enterprise, a surprise visit from Tasha Yar, and an excellent alternate timeline story. And of course, the number 1 episode, you all can guess it. Say it with me now. Shades of Grey. Oh, no, wait, that was last season. I guess I'll just have to pick the best of both worlds then. A near perfect episode with a memorable cliffhanger. My favorite moment of the season, however, was seeing Denise Crosby's surprise and most welcome appearance in Yesterday's Enterprise, where Tasha Yar finally gets the send-off she deserves. I will mention, in terms of some kind ofs, we had a total of 22 of them in this season.
Whoa, that's a cool tally.
Yeah.
This was the first season that we started tallying those, and we started looking out for them. That said, I went ahead and, for a basis of comparison, I counted the ones in the previous 2 seasons. Season 2 had 12, and I'm sure that that's partly due to it being an abbreviated season anyway. Season 1, however, takes the crown with 29 some kind ofs, and the one that has the episode that has the most of those phrases is The Arsenal of Freedom, with 6 some kind ofs or some sort of.
Whoa. This is the greatest day of my life.
Yeah.
Now, I have to have my memorable quote of the season. It's tough finding a good one, something that encapsulates the season as a whole, but it just comes from one episode. Now, I chose it because I think it's appropriate not only for the, in the context of its episode, but also in the real world as well, out of universe. And normally I don't reuse a quote that I've already chosen previously to represent an entire season, but I think that dual context of the line is sufficient cause to repeat it here. And that is Picard's line from yesterday's Enterprise. Let's make sure history never forgets the name Enterprise.
Nice. Arsenal of Freedom had 6 some kind of
awesome.
some sort. This is the
Indeed.
great. Oh boy,
That is great.
What
And
luck.
it's the goriest one. Yes.
No, that's conspiracy.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I'm getting my titles mixed up.
However,
Oops.
it's Jake's final take. Sirach, your final thoughts on this season?
Well, first I want to say congratulations, Chris, because you actually out-spreadsheeted the spreadsheeter master, Brian T. Husk. So,
In a major way. Like, this is nuts. I'm telling you, it's the greatest day of my life.
so that is remarkable in itself. A lot of things happened this season. One thing that kind of jumps out to me is last season we had Diana Muldaur, and basically I forgot about her. So that's how great Dr. Crusher is at doing her Dr. Crusher thing, because as great as she was last year, I just feel like, the dynamic that Beverly Crusher brings to the show is just really priceless. Also glad to see that Tasha Yar is so nice that she gets to die twice, because that's a rare feat in television. It's almost never done. Also, what sticks out to me is that we had an episode centered around Riker and his sexual prowess, but he wasn't guilty of the thing, in matter of perspective. So I thought that was an interesting kind of turnaround for the writers to say, hey, let's take something that is kind of a weakness and try to reposition it, redefine it. So that was one thing. We see Wesley grow up this season. So I see when kids start dating and stuff like that, then that they're growing up. And it's kind of a benchmark for that. So I feel like Crusher is growing up in front of our face. And yeah, this episode gave us a lot of, like I said, a lot of episodes that I feel like are 9s and above. I would say at least 3, maybe 4. Solid 9+ episodes. And that's pretty good ratio out of the 26, I would say. A couple of episodes that I would like to, unremember. But you can't be perfect. There's always budgetary issues, time restraints, and whatever else is, prevents them from delivering exceptional episodes. But I feel like also you get more respect for those great episodes when you've had a kind of a not so good episode. So you need one to have really a lot of respect for the other. And for the most part, I didn't get any cringy stuff this season. The worst of the cringe for me was Menage Troy episode. That was the most cringiest for me. So if I had to say, which one kind of I would like to have a do-over on, or maybe the writers would like to have a do-over, I think that would be the one. But other than that, it was a great season. It made up for some of the bad stuff that I've seen in the first couple of seasons. It's just, this to me so far, obviously, is the best out of the 3 that we've seen. We'll see going forward how it compares to other seasons, but this has been great. And I think there's at least 3 episodes that I would put on the top tier of all-time Star Trek episodes.
Yeah. All right, everybody, you heard it. Sirach Lofton said, Menage a Troy, he wants a do-over. So I don't know if that a Menage a 6.
I didn't say it like that.
I don't know what that means, but it means something. Anyway, that's it for us, everybody. It's been a lot of fun. Great season 3. If you are a patron, stick around for Things Left Unsaid, because I got a guess on Jason's favorite episode of season 4. I actually have 2 guesses, and I've been trying to figure out which one I want to go with. So that's torturous. But thank you very much to Chris McGee, TJ Jackson-Bey out in Missouri, My Live in Tokyo, Carrie Schwent, Jason M. Okun, Melissa Longo for myself, for Sirach, for Melissa, and Sir Aaron Eisenberg. We should add a Sir in there. It feels good.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much for hanging out with us. We will see you next time. And until then, always remember the 7th rule.